Hello there, thank you so much for stopping by. My name is ChitChad and welcome back to another episode of Planet Coaster. Fret not, we are starting today's episode in Photoshop because we are making some merchandising for the Super Mario theme park. We gotta bring in the Amiibos. I mean, that's Nintendo's biggest thing. I remember when Amiibos first came out and how rare some of them were, and just how funny because you can find most of them pretty easily now. I mean, there are a few exceptions, the special release ones, but I'm just talking about kind of the base ones. I remember hunting down for like Mega Man and Sonic, which we're not just going to have Mario Amiibos. We're going to have a couple of other characters from some other franchises just so they can make cameo appearances like Donkey Kong over here. I just thought this would be a fun opportunity to kind of fill out the store, the Luigi's Mansion store, and also have a couple of kiosks located throughout the park. Recently, just got back from a trip to Disneyland and Universal Studios, and while I was there, this whole concept kind of reminds me of the pin traders. If you've never been to Disneyland, they have this thing called pin trading. I don't know if it's still as popular as it used to be. They still have like commemorative pins and special like anniversary pins and only yearly released pins. It was just kind of a really fun thing, and a lot of the park employees would have lanyards with different types of pins, Disney pins obviously, that you could trade with. And there's a couple of kiosks and just smaller stores that are dedicated to pin trading, and I just think that's really fun. And I actually got a few while I was there. There was a Pascal, and I love Pascal. If you don't know who Pascal is, he's from Tangled, and he is a chameleon. I actually used to have a pet chameleon. I believe he is a panther chameleon specifically, which is the type of chameleon I had. So I just have always liked the character. I thought he was very fun and unique, and I like his personality. And I hadn't seen a pin of him before, so I was like, yeah, definitely going to grab that. So today's episode is primarily going to be focused on creating this Amiibo display. We're going to have two different types of displays. One's going to be a more modern, very simplistic, almost think like an Apple Store display, just very bright and more focused on the product than the actual display itself. And then the second one is going to be an outside kiosk, so it's going to be a bit more of a rustic, very wooden themed, something that looks like it could actually traverse the Mario Kingdom. I would like to make more different types of kiosks and display. Perhaps when we start working on the actual Mushroom Kingdom part of the park, we can use that opportunity to make another type of display. And this isn't going to be the only merchandising that we'll do for the park. This was literally just to get something that I know I had easy access to. These images were fairly easy to find to create the Amiibos. And some of them, it was surprising that some of them, their scans were larger than others, and I don't know why that is. Just kind of, as I found them, I just kind of plopped them into this almost like a template. But like I said, this isn't going to be the only merchandising that we'll add in the park. It was just to get started, and I've got a couple of other ideas of things that we can add in the future. But if there are some like Nintendo themed things that you all can think of, feel free to leave that down in the comments below. I definitely would like to fill the Luigi's Mansion store in particular right now with more items like this. And I would like to actually model, and I use model in quotation marks, model using the geometric shape some actual like items that we can have in the store, whether it be like Mario and Luigi or Waluigi or Wario hats, or just like really simplistic items to kind of fill out the store, just because obviously this is going to be a flat texture. And it's sort of selling the illusion that there is a bit of depth to them. That's why I added the drop shadow behind the Amiibo boxes, just to kind of give the illusion that there's something else behind them. And you'll see as I am starting to reference other characters, obviously like Duck Hunt, and I think we throw Mega Man in there. I think we also throw Sonic in there. So it was a fun opportunity to give cameos to other video game franchises, which I love. In particular, Star Fox. Star Fox is one of my all-time favorite Nintendo games. Nintendo 64 especially. I remember the Christmas where I got the Nintendo 64, and it was amazing. Because I also got Star Fox. I believe Star Fox actually came with it. So I played that game all night long. I think that was one of the first all-nighters that I ever pulled in my life, was playing Star Fox. Because I just couldn't put it down. It was so much fun. And it's just like an on-rail shooter, But I don't know, the idea of exploring a galaxy and flying these ships was like the coolest thing, because I always liked that about Star Wars, just the idea of like having a spaceship and just flying wherever you wanted to go. And then playing Star Fox just kind of like made that dream come true in video game form, because there was nothing else like it. I even played the old SNES version of Star Fox, but that just really didn't do it for me because of the simple geometric shapes. But you go back in the Nintendo 64, and anybody that's played any of the new ones, you'd be like, well, the Nintendo 64 is geometric shapes. But back in the day when Nintendo 64 first came out, you're like, wow, these graphics are amazing. And speaking of graphics, oh my gosh, going to Universal Studios, you sometimes forget just how many of their rides rely on screens. And I'm not dissing that, but it was just very especially I noticed in the Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey ride, the screens, the dome screens were very dim. It was actually kind of hard to see the details, and I went into the one in Florida, and I don't remember them being that dark. And even thinking about that, and I know this is a jumping off point, but at Disney, we rode all of like the old school dark rides, you know, Pinocchio, Snow White, Peter Pan, and all of them just seemed, and Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, can't forget that one. I love the most wholesome of Disney rides, where at the end you end up in hell. I always thought that was really funny, but all those rides seemed a lot darker than they were. And I'm not talking about dark thematically, they haven't changed in years. I'm talking about just visually. It felt like the black lights and the lighting were just a lot darker, or just not as vibrant and bright. I don't know. Am I getting older and things are just not as visually clear? I don't know, but I just feel like everything just seemed a little bit darker. I don't know if it's if like the light is damaging some of the older props and displays and animatronics. I don't know. That just seems like a crazy thought. Like Pirates of the Caribbean's pretty old too, and like those lights are on bright. So I don't know. Just a lot of the older ones was really dark on the inside. So I was just wondering what was going on. But going back to Universal Studios, like I talked about this on my Discord, and I also talked about this, I think, on Instagram. But when we rode Jurassic Park, which used to be, I'm not gonna say it's not my favorite ride anymore, because it's been replaced with several other rides, including the Tower of Terror, now Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout. That ride was amazing. I loved the new like look and the way that it feels so much more randomized now. Oh, the ride's so great. But back to Jurassic Park, man. I don't know what's up with that ride, but lots of stuff were missing. The Stegosaurus were missing, both of them. And even the sign for their area was taken down, because you can't have, like, I think it was called Stegosaurus Springs or Cove or something like that. And you can't have a Stegosaurus Spring or Cove without Stegosauruses, Stegosauri. And then one of the raptors was missing. The Jeep still doesn't work, hasn't worked in like 8 years, I feel like. And the T-Rex still very visibly apparent that he's being held up by a support beam that kind of swings him out towards you. So that was a bit upsetting. And I heard rumor that they're actually going to be giving it a Jurassic World makeover, which would make sense if they're not repairing these animatronics as they're breaking, if they're just going to do a full like wipe and re-theme it all to Jurassic World, which I wouldn't be against, as long as the essence of the Jurassic Park ride is still there. I will be a happy camper. And speaking of camping, I was thinking about using this fairy tale kind of approach, and I was going to use like that camper, that traveling wagon type look. I'm glad that I kind of went with this smaller scale food stand. We use this kind of as a base, and then we hide all of the food and stuff so it doesn't look like you're selling food with Amiibos. Which it might be fun to actually use this stand to create like a custom churro stand or a turkey leg or something like that. I think that would be kind of fun. Just because walking around Disneyland, of course, you're going to have a churro. Like, you have to have a churro at Disneyland. My favorite thing at Disneyland, as far as the snacks and treats are concerned, are the mint juleps over in New Orleans Square. Love them. I want one right now, just thinking about it. I love those things. I think they also serve them in the Blue Bayou, which is the restaurant that is inside the Pirates of the Caribbean ride, which is almost impossible to get into now. I swear you have to like make reservations a year in advance just to go to that restaurant. But yeah, overall had a really nice trip. I was actually sick for most of it, which was kind of a bummer. Grotesquely sick at times, but I wasn't gonna let that spoil my Disney fun and Universal. Universal we only did one day of, and it was actually kind of unfortunate because they, without telling us, closed the park 2 hours early for a convention. It was like a neurologist convention, so a bunch of like medical people were storming the park towards a closing time for us, which was a real bummer because they had like beer and wine stands like popping up, and they're like, oh, this is just for the convention. I'm like, maybe I want a beer. Maybe I need a beer to enjoy my day a bit more. Jurassic Park made me so depressed. I remember riding that as like a 5 or 6 year old kid and literally losing my mind. And now it's just everything's broken. I just want that Jeep to drop one more time. It's like the Disco Yeti over at Animal Kingdom in Florida, the Disney park. That Yeti hasn't moved since like the opening of the ride, and maybe one day they'll fix it. Who knows? But I can't too often recall like a Disney thing that's been closed, you know, or not been closed, but something that's been broken on a ride for so long that it's just like you don't even expect it to work anymore. Other than the Yeti, that's all I can really think of. But I've remembered the Jeep in the Jurassic Park ride like not dropping in 8+ years. And actually, I gotta say, one of my other favorite rides, Indiana Jones. We went on it 3 times, and 2 of the 3 times the boulder didn't go off. It didn't work. So we just literally parked underneath Indiana Jones, and he's like, hey, get a light down here. And like literally nothing happens. You're just in a dark room. And then the Jeep just kind of like kicks into gear again and then just goes straight down. You're like, well, that was anticlimactic at best. It worked once, so I can't complain too much. I love that ride. I'm trying to think of anything else. Well, we're working on merchandising, which, by the way, this is me trying to figure out a way to get the park employees to stay by the booths, the stalls, the stands, whatever you want to go, the kiosks, whatever you want to call them. I feel kind of bad, even though it is a game, obviously, but I'm like trapping these poor guys in here, like, no, you can't leave. And then that guy left, and I'm like, hey, you get back there. And maybe I'll have to like create like a little, almost like a computer interface for them. So like they're charging cards and stuff. I don't know, but I'm happy with how these turned out. But as far as merchandising, Disney, we bought a couple of things. There's a build your own R2-D2 stand, which I thought was really cool. So we built some R2-D2s, and of course we bought some pins, and I got some new Oswald stuff. Oswald's like my favorite character. So of course I had to get some new Oswald stuff. Got the Oswald ears finally. And yeah, just had a really good time. And that's actually going to kind of bring us to the end of today's episode. It's a little bit shorter, just because the next episode is going to be a lot longer, because we are going to be working on the entrance to the park. I hope you're excited for that. It's going to be super cool. And I will answer some Discord questions on that episode. So feel free to join the Discord. The link is in the description below. And you can check out all the sub channels. There's some from art, animation, of course, Planet Coaster. And it's a fun place to hang out and talk with fellow chatterboxes. Appreciate you all. Thank you for watching today's episode. And as always, I will chat with you later.